What is a dirty little, or big, secret about an industry that you have worked in, that people outside the industry really ought to know? I work on a farm. When they say you should wash your produce thoroughly at home, they're not joking. Work at a hotel. We have a thing called the C room. The C stands for curry. We are only allowed to put Indian guests into those rooms. Eater. We are a long-term stay hotel. There are kitchens in the rooms, so the guests are able to cook, which is why the curry scent is so strong to begin with. Your child may take his first step or say his first real word while at daycare, but we aren't going to tell you that. I would kind of prefer that. Makes it more special if I think I saw the first. I used to work for a popular clothing retail company. We were told we weren't supposed to hire people based on their looks. Yet we would get in trouble for hiring unattractive people. Abercrombie? They're not employees. They're models. That's how they get away with it. Sometimes surgeons Google how to do things while they're already in surgery. You're welcome. Well, I guess I prefer that over them just winging it. When your kid says the teacher hates me, parents generally don't believe it. My wife works in education and says she regularly sees teachers that have dislikes of specific kids and treat them like crap. My parents believe me. I was excellent in English, but the teacher seriously hated me. It reflected in my grade even though I knew the work. They just didn't care, lol. My parents didn't believe me cause I was a lazy kid that didn't do all of my homework in all of my classes. But my AP English literature teacher was a misandrist and a crazy old bat, and I am a white boy. So she would be very sexist if you didn't do your homework. So I did all my homework for that class out of self-defense. And I got A's 2 quarters in a row in that class. 3rd quarter. I disagreed with her thoughts on Lord of the Flies and got an F. And then got an A again 4th quarter. I know your pain. I work in the waste hauling industry. At our recycling collection sorting facilities. The recyclables are sorted by hand on a conveyor belt. If they're in a plastic bag, they get thrown out. Too dangerous to have guys try to open plastic bags with who knows what in there. If there's some pasta sauce still in that glass bottle, thrown out. A little bit of grease on the pizza box, thrown out. The vast amount of recycled stuff gets thrown out. The key is to make sure everything you recycle is completely clean and isn't in the plastic bag. Edit. It seems facilities vary in their processes drastically by state. I'm in Colorado. For any questions about your specific area, I would check your hauler's website for best recycling practices. I personally will put the stuff I can recycle in my recycling container in my kitchen. Then dump that into my hauling toter. Then throw out the garbage bag that was in my kitchen bin. Rinse and repeat, literally. In some hotels the housekeepers do something called popping the sheets. They wipe off crumbs and straighten the sheets out to make it look like they made it with fresh linen. The thing is, it just depends on the housekeeper, so no brand is immune to this. However, this is a big thing that most good managers look out for, and the employee can get fired if they are caught. I used to work in a small fish market deli in the early 90s. The red snapper you are buying could be any number of different fish, but it'll be sold as snapper regardless. Name changing is pretty common since few people can tell the difference between the different species. I work in wholesale seafood, and you are likely to get a better deal buying direct and making a meal at home. You know you are getting what you pay for because by law, wholesalers have to have their paperwork in order to sell their product. Most of the fish duckery happens at the retail or restaurant level, like some places that cut cheap fillet fish into scallop shapes and sell them as scallops. If you live in an area with access to fresh seasonal seafood, buy it wholesale or direct from the docks. Many retail stores have days where they just destroy a bunch of old merchandise instead of continuing to try to sell it. I used to work at GameStop, and whenever the store decided not to carry something anymore, it got pennied out of the system and put in a box in the office. Every couple months our district manager would come through and get a pair of scissors. He snapped game discs in half, cut the cords off controllers, cut holes in shirts, and then threw everything in the dumpster out back. 8. Uses deception as a core business practice. When I was employed there, if we didn't bring out 2+1 items, our manager would come over and do it for us. Even if you were adamant about not needing the items. If the 2-year activation fee concerned you, we didn't mention it. Think you can get 4 lines for $160? Nope. You have to buy the phones on top of that price. So $160 turns into $230. Plus insurance at $10 a line. So $270. Plus taxes. But if 8 had said 4 lines for $300, you wouldn't come in their store. I quit when my manager tried to get me to sell a shitty LG tablet and an iPhone to a woman with crippling arthritis. I never felt better about leaving a job. We're not technical geniuses. We just Google the problem and read you the steps over the phone. If you can wrap your head around Googling and following steps, please do not call the help desk. Most of the time, radio stations do not actually take requests unless it's an actual request program. The log playlist is already set for the entire day. And the entire weekend as well. Even though it may be a well-done comment. I worked at David's Bridal and I had a lady try on 2 dresses. A $900 dress that made her look like a fat bumpkin. And a $550 dress that looked beautiful. This is somebody's wedding day we're talking about. That's just bad business. Aside from being unkind. Everyone who oohs and ahs over the dress will ask her where she got it. Same if the dress looks unattractive. Sustained long-term business is much more valuable than one small short-term score. Overall, the corporate management gives zero ducks about the union workers of UPS. We had a driver that used to ride his bike to work every day, and one morning a guy fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into him, causing all kinds of life-threatening injuries. Collapsed lungs. Broken bones. Possible lifelong paralysis. Weeks-long coma. Etc. The district manager, during a meeting about a week after this happened, is passing around a get well soon card. We all sign it and pass it around until it gets back to her. She looks up and says, "I should really just be writing, we hope you don't get well soon, but it'd be great if you just died soon considering the headache this whole thing has caused the company." A few snickers from other managers followed, but it was obvious she was not joking. No. The slot machines don't pay out big after someone's been losing at one for a long time. Pray to our NGSs for the big win. I don't know if this counts, but the markup on HDMI cables is ridiculous. I worked at Best Buy for 2 years and the employee discount is 5% above cost. So every now and then, I'd see what something would cost me if I saw how expensive it was. I once saw an HDMI cable that was like $250 and it would have cost me $11. An HDMI cable for $250? What on earth are they claiming that a $250 cable can do that a $10 cable can't? It has the highest quality pixels. I work in D1 athletics. Some, but not all, football and basketball players are told by the athletic department which majors they can and can't take. A lot don't even choose a major, but are given one. It all has to do with the NCAA academic requirements, which are built around keeping a player eligible and have them progressing towards a degree. There are no checks for quality of the degree program they take. As a result, underpaid and overworked academic advisors who risk getting fired if a star athlete doesn't do well in a harder major take advantage of the system to keep their jobs. I don't know if I'm late to the replies, but I worked for a company who dealt with breast cancer awareness. Without going into full detail, I can tell you that I personally raised over $20,000 in 2 months that I know went to pay someone's salary rather than research. Don't waste money on an expensive coffin. The one with the air pulled out. All that fancy stuff. As soon as the soil hits them, they almost always pop. Freight train conductor. We have to blow the horn at every street crossing. So no. When we're coming through your neighborhood at 3 AM laying on the horn, we aren't doing it to be big digs. Also, we have speed limits too. So when we're moving really slow through town holding up traffic, we aren't doing that to be big digs either. Investment advisor here. Most financial advisors out there are only after commissions. Half don't know what they are doing. Find a fee-only fiduciary advisor with significant education. This is your life savings after all. Third-party booking agencies like Expedia and Booking.com intentionally hide information and mislead people. And there's not a whole lot the hotel can do about it. Book directly with the hotel. I have literally tried calling hotels and basically saying Expedia is showing I can book room X on date Y for Z dollars. Can you guys match that? And the answer is basically no. We can't do jack shit. The price on our website is all you're gonna get from us. And the price on Expedia is all you're gonna get from them. Is there some trick to booking directly with the hotel, or have I just had bad luck so far? Here's another tip from a guy who worked at a pool for 5 years. Walk into a pool area and smell the chlorine. Hey. That means the pool is nice and chlorinated and is clean. Right? Nope. If you smell chlorine, don't get into the water. A properly chlorinated and chemically balanced pool will not smell like chlorine. If you smell the chlorine, it's either because the pool has been chlorinated to a frightening and dangerous level, or because the chloramines are getting out of control. Basically, what you're smelling is not the chlorine, but the chloramines, and those are bad. Those are what irritates your skin and eyes and causes other problems. Our facility had a room that had 2 swimming pools with 1.5 million gallons of water between them, and it rarely smelled like chlorine despite being properly chlorinated because we had a UV system that kept the chloramines in check. Smell chlorine? Stay out. After I said that, you may have just thought to yourself that most pools that you've been to smell like chlorine. Yeah, it's because most pools do not have their chemicals well maintained and are absolutely filthy, as I mentioned in this thread earlier. Teachers don't actually know everything about their content. Once had a girl who was in love with Elizabeth I and all the queens during the age of absolutism. She had read biographies and documentaries and anything else she could find. Anyways, she mentioned that Marie Antoinette was related to Maria Theresa, and I don't know that, so I remarked about that. Kid in the back, it's sad when your students know more than you. Okay kiddo, you made a 55 on the last test. Fight me. Restoration companies don't always have your best interests at heart when you have a flood or fire. Document. 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 I can't stress it enough. Your contents will find their way into someone else's home, be it straight up theft or falsely marked as non-restorable and jacked. Pictures. Lists. Go above and beyond to ensure you can back up everything at the end. Retail price for pants, $120. They wholesale at $50. They cost $3 to create. Clothing is a rip-off. Especially fancy brand names. They benefit from their stuff breaking after a year. Then you'll buy their new stuff. Total rip-off. Wendy's chili is made with the burgers that sat for too long. They get thrown in a drawer for the rest of the day. Then frozen overnight. Then boiled and added to the chili mix the next day. Never frozen my ass. That's really not that bad. It's a delicious, filling, and cheap product made from food that would have otherwise been wasted. That's fantastic news. I work in the coal industry in underground mines in WV. The secret people should know is that it's not all about safety like everyone thinks. It's all about production. You will be fired for some reason if you don't comply with what you're told to do, no matter how dangerous it gets. Look up a big branch mine explosion. That was mere death for production when that happened. I worked for the company that owned that mine and many others in my area, and it was only in favor of production. 29 good men died that day. Those great guys, 3 of who I knew, died due to being slaves to the company, scared to lose a good job so their kids could keep shoes on their feet. Some were still young and didn't get to experience bringing life into this world. All for a black rock in the ground that was fetching some good money back then. Work in the mattress industry here. The bottom 73% of a mattress, for the most part, is garbage in a memory foam mattress. Get the cheapest concrete pose mattress you can and then go get yourself a nice mattress topper. A nice high-end topper on top of a sheety mattress will be 20-40% cheaper than a high-end mattress. There's a lot of room to move because toppers can get pretty expensive themselves. Don't be a chump. Most actors aren't actually that good looking. They are, however, striking. They often have large and or exaggerated features which read well on camera but can be a bit off-putting in person. As a director, I'll look for two things during casting: charisma and absurdly pronounced features. One or the other will get people watching. Both is better. Add sex appeal and you're rich. If you're the type of person that walks into a room and everybody looks, try acting. Film is literally just a bunch of people sitting watching a more interesting person do things. Oh, and it helps if you can act. The academic publishing industry is a sprawling wasteland of corruption, rife with plagiarism and cheat research that gets effectively no peer review. These companies then turn around and defraud colleges by bundling their garbage per mil books into library licensing agreements. So colleges wind up paying for books no one ever reads, while professors prop up their CVs with garbage publications. And garbage publishers pull in money hand over fist. It's a deep-seated problem happening at a scale you would not believe. I work in aluminium extrusion. People die every so often there, either by crushing caused by faulty stacking or human error. I remember one specific time a young man, I believe was 26, was crushed by about 3.5 tons of metal because the company I work for refused to put safety ledges where the metal would be stacked and waiting to enter the aging ovens. The FBI showed up a few days later and confiscated computers in the office with emails saying how lucky they were they could save all the metal that crushed this man to death, because the loss of that customer could cripple them. The guy's family won a lawsuit for about $250,000. But yeah, employers don't give a shit about our lives or safety. In every upscale restaurant I've worked in, people constantly touch your food, accidentally or on purpose. Servers lie to customers constantly to save face or upsell you. Some people will literally eat off your plate before or after it hits the table. And we talk shit about you all the time. Work at a police department. Intrusion alarms are kind of a joke. Like 98% are false alarms and a ton of them each day, so they get backburnered if anything remotely serious comes along. Please note that despite this we still take them seriously and will clear a unit to go at first opportunity. I've heard that some departments charge fines for repeated trips that are obviously equipment based, bad sensor, or home based, yapper dogs. Which makes a certain sense because, altogether, it eats up a lot of manpower and gasoline that can be better spent elsewhere. What's more frustrating is when it becomes clear to us that an alarm has been going off for like 10 minutes before we get a call from the company. Turns out some homeowners like to be notified before the police, and I'm sure they have their reasons, but if those occurrences end up being real break-ins, then those burglars are long gone. It'd be interesting to hear from someone that works at an alarm company and see it from their POV. I'm sure there's a lot of factors in play.